this is Harrison here with HPY Audio, back with episode 2 of DAWs for Dummies, a video series that is aiming to help new producers find their way through digital audio workstations and find the software that works best for them. In the first episode, I introduced all of the softwares that I'm going to be covering. I introduced their difficulty, their pricing, the content that they involve, and a bunch of other different things to compare. And today, I'm going to be discussing the UIs, the file setup, audio recording, and MIDI programming for each of these softwares. These aspects are going to be the most important for a lot of people for these softwares, because if they are hard to use, hard to set up, or it is not easy to know how to record or program your MIDI, you are not going to find it enjoyable to use these softwares. So I will showcase all of these things on each software to show you what the difference is between them and what is easiest and what is hardest to set up for all of these. So to start out, I'm going to be going through every software and showing the user interface and how I would set up my files if I was recording audio or producing MIDI or dragging in audio tracks from a different source. Now let's get into Reaper. When you first open Reaper, you're greeted with a pretty blank slate file. You have your edit options right here, you have your track and mix options just down here, and that's pretty much all there is to it. If you want to create a track, you go Insert New Track, right here. If I press this button, suddenly it's recording. I'm going to mute that so I can't hear myself because I hate hearing myself. And now, if I press this button, it can record my voice right into Reaper. So now, this allows me to move this anywhere I want. I can mix, I have my effects options right here. I have my solos, I have my muting, and all my edit options here allow for crossfades, linking, grouping, snapping, all that sort of stuff right there. This is pretty straightforward, and I think that if you're just looking to record audio, Reaper is actually very, very, very easy to do. Now Reaper does have MIDI capabilities. I've just launched this MIDI file right here. However, you will need to have your own synth plugins and MIDI plugins in order to actually make the most of having these MIDI programs. Overall, Reaper is very easy to use, however, a lot of the UI is fairly limited, so it is easy to use for beginners, but if you want more options and more stuff to do, you probably need to start moving towards other softwares such as Pro Tools that give you a wider variety of stuff. However, for an intuitive audio recording software that also does have some basic MIDI programming features, this is relatively straightforward and probably one of the easiest softwares to use. Okay, let's move on to Pro Tools. I just recorded probably about 10 minutes of me talking through Pro Tools and how I'd set up my files and do some audio recording. However, I realized that it didn't pick up any of my audio because of my Pro Tools drivers, so isn't that fun? Anyway, let's get into how I would set up a Pro Tools file. Now, you start off just with kind of creating your file, so you have new, recent, all that sort of stuff. You can set up your sample rates and your bit depth and also your file types right here. There are also some templates for stuff like Dolby Atmos, but I'm not going to use them. And then this is what you're greeted with. You're greeted with two windows. You have an edit window and you have a mix window. Your edit window is, as the name implies, where you do all your editing for your waveforms and your tracks, whereas the mix window is where you put in all of your plugins and all of that sort of stuff. So let's start off by creating a track. You just go up here to New, Track, you have all your options here. We're just going to go Audio Track and we're going to call it Test. Now if I go up to here, there's Slip and Grid. These options up here are going to affect how I move the track along. Slip is just kind of wherever you want to put it on this line, it can go, whereas Grid means it has to snap perfectly onto your grid, which is based on your tempo and your meter. If I want to change my mix settings and my IOs for this particular track, I go right here. So if I press input, you should be able to hear me, and you can see that I'm getting input from my monitor. Now, I don't like hearing myself, so I'm going to mute myself, and then let's do a little tiny bit of recording, and oh wait, where's my play button? Where's my record button? That's weird. This is something that trips up a lot of people, especially new users to Pro Tools. A lot of the time you just won't have a play button or a record button that's on your edit window, which can be a massive pain. So if you want to find it, you have to go to Window and then Transport, and here you go. It's quite annoying, isn't it? Yeah, I think so too. Now let's record something real quick. You record prime and then press play or space. Now if I just talk for a bit, you can see that my waveforms are forming and I'm recording into Pro Tools. And now I have a little track that I have here ready to be edited with or mixed with. And this is where we can use our editing tools. The hand here allows me to, as you can see, move it wherever I want. The select tool allows me to select all or parts of the track. And this one here allows me to shorten the track or lengthen it. There's a lot of pretty good options for editing in this window. And then if I want to mix, I press that. And for the track now, I have all of my inserts, which is all of my plugins. You also have recall inserts and stuff, and your IOs, but we're not going to cover any of that stuff today. And this is pretty much how you set up your audio files and for audio recording in Pro Tools. Setting up for recording MIDI is a little bit different. Now for MIDI, if I want to create a MIDI track, I have to change my thing here to go to MIDI. And as you can see, I have my little piano here. It allows you to sort of program in what that MIDI is going to control with some of your IOs. Overall, Pro Tools is a little bit different than the other ones. It's way less intuitive. It's a lot harder for new producers to pick up because not everything is straightforward. You have multiple windows that you need to switch between, which can be a real pain for new producers. There's lots of shortcuts that you need to learn just to get this to run properly. There's all these different things that are just not very clear, and you need to learn and learn and learn and learn just to be able to use Pro Tools in a normal day-to-day basis. So as much as I love this software and I use it for everything, I would not recommend this at all for a new producer. Okay, FL Studio. When you first go in, you have all of your options here at the top for all your different MIDI programming stuff. You also have your recording options for recording any of your audio. So FL Studio is very pattern based. A lot of what you do is by creating patterns. You have your channel racks, for example, if you just want to put, rather than making any particular MIDI notes, if you just want to put on, let's say a kick drum, this allows you to put all of your kick drums on these particular beats. You can now paint this pattern anywhere you'd like. You can also add in a bunch of different other MIDI plugins, different drum programs, different synth programs, samplers, audio clips, keys, anything you could want. But then audio recording is a little bit different. So let's just say I want to record an audio into a playlist as an audio clip. Now you can hear myself right here. I can go in 1 and 2. Now you have an audio clip that you can screw around with. You can also edit the audio clip just by double clicking on it. And now if I want to add any effects to this, I can go up here to add, go to other, to effects, and I have my entire list of effects right here that I can add onto the track. Now, FL Studio is a little bit harder to figure out than I first thought. For me, who I haven't had a huge amount of experience on FL Studio, I honestly found this kind of challenging to sort of figure out just how to do sort of basic things. The MIDI was relatively simple to figure out, and I think that you'd be able to make some pretty good beats and pretty good MIDI programs using this software. However, the general file setup I think is pretty clunky. I think overall the software is a little bit counterintuitive and isn't very easy to figure out if you are a new user. And I can imagine that a lot of people would have to use different guides online to figure out exactly what's going on. Welcome to Logic. Now, this part of the video is going to be a little bit different to the other softwares, as because I am filming this all on a Windows computer, I'm going to be commentating over a pre-recorded video that I'd got from my MacBook of me showcasing how Logic works. So bear with me as I showcase the UI and the file setup for Logic and showcase the amount of amazing features that this software has to offer. Now you have all of your options there at the top, including your tempo, your meter, your recording options, as well as everything in between, as well as your mixing options. Now your mix window has a few things built into it. You have your EQ window that is right there built in, as well as all of your audio effects being on a drop-down menu when you press the button. If we press the plus button here, this allows us to add different tracks, and as you can see here, it allows you to put in a MIDI track with a software instrument or external MIDI. It allows you to put in a pattern similar to what you'd find on FL Studio. You have your audio where you can either put in a microphone or a guitar or a bass. And the interesting feature of this is the session player. This allows you to create an algorithmic session musician that plays along with the songs that you have created based on a meter, a feel, and the tempo. This makes creating music and creating fleshed out demos a lot easier, as the session drummer gives you a wide variety of feels and a wide variety of different styles to choose from. As you can see here, you can choose from a wide variety of different styles down there. It allows you to go from retro, hard rock, punk rock, funk rock, anything in between. You can change your cymbal feel here, from crash cymbal to hi-hat to tom grooves. You can change your kick drum patterns, your fill complexity, the amount of swing in the song, the amount of fills, the intensity. All of this stuff can be changed to create an intricate drum part that you can use to flesh out your tracks. And if we move on to creating a MIDI track here, we have a wide variety of sounds and styles to choose from. As you can see here to the left, this is the plethora of different instruments and instrument styles that you can get through Logic. The range is limitless. You have hundreds of drum kit settings, hundreds of guitar settings, orchestral, percussion, anything you could want is all right there, ready to go. And if you are not happy with those sounds, you can then take them and mix them using the different audio effects to create your desired sound. The possibilities are endless, and this is an amazing tool for new producers to use it as their playground to figure out their way around MIDI production and MIDI programming. Now, another amazing feature, which I like to use in Logic, is the amazing amp simulator features that are built into Logic. If you have an audio interface connected to your computer that has instrument cable inputs, it allows you to plug in your guitar or bass and record into Logic using their amplifier simulators. This right here is the bass amp simulator. There are some incredible things. You can move the microphone position around the cone, which gives you different sounds. You can change the type of microphone that the simulator is recording with. You have your EQs on your amplifier. You have all of your different settings, such as your compressors and your EQs, as well as your gains. You have different sound settings. It really is limitless, the possibilities of how you can record using this. You have hundreds of different amps to choose from, as you can see here. All of them effectively emulate the sounds of real-life amps and allow you to customize between the amp and the cabinet. It really is incredible what the software can do. It is so easy to use. The UI is so easy to pick up, and all of these features are incredibly powerful for a new producer to use and give you a wide variety of sounds and an amazing plethora of technology to create amazing music and find your way through audio production in a way that is fun and allows you to discover things for yourself. Now let's move on to Ableton Live. Now when you start off with Ableton, it looks a little bit different from some of the other softwares. You'd notice that it looks more similar to the mix window of Pro Tools than anything else. You have your options up here to change your window from this one that you see currently to this one, which looks a little bit more recognizable to some of the other softwares. And if you want to edit your MIDI, you have two different options. You have the draw key here or the keyboard key here. The keyboard key would connect to your computer keyboard, or if you have a MIDI keyboard, it would connect to that. Whereas the draw key just allows you to draw your MIDI like it has on all the other softwares. Now, moving on to audio. Now, if I wanted to record audio now, what I'd need to do is go over here to my audio track, press the record button, and then simply press record. If I then wanted to edit this, I could put any of these effects onto it. They turn up down here. You can put more than one on at a time, so you can have your tuner, your distortion, or your reverbs on all at once here. This makes it very easy and very straightforward to program all of your MIDI and also record all of your audio into the software. Now, I think this UI is actually very, very easy to figure out. If you are a new user, you'd probably be able to look at this and figure out exactly what you need to do. It might take a little bit more adjusting than something like Logic, but I believe that this is very easy to use and the UI is very, very easy to figure out with all of your options right here, with your menu right here for all of your different effects and different instruments. You have your info view down here that allows you to figure out exactly what you need to do, and all of your plugins, all of your effects, all that goes down here. I think that this is very easy to figure out and a lot easier than a lot of people think for a software of this level. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode comparing all of the ways that you set up your files, as well as comparing the UIs, audio recording, and MIDI programming capabilities of all of these softwares. All of these softwares have their pros and cons. Some of them are quite easy to set up, whereas others are a little bit harder and take a little bit more practice to figure out exactly what to do. However, I think all of these have their place, and once you learn something and are comfortable with the software, this becomes really easy. All it takes is your own personal preference to figure out which one of these softwares to use. Now, moving on to the next episode, I'll be covering EQs as well as dynamic processing, such as compression and gating. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.